Welcome to the webinar on getting the most out of the data you already have. So as you know, artificial intelligence, or AI, and big data are two key buzzwords in business today. Organizations are using AI to gather data from large data sets, like the data you have in contracts, to look for patterns and trends to help them make smarter business decisions. We see in-depth data analysis in areas like marketing and product development, but often not as much in the contracting space. So I'm Peggy Barber, IACCM's America's CEO and General Counsel. I'm happy to welcome Deirdre Lyon, Vice President of Sales for Contract Pod AI, to share with us the ways that you can make smarter business decisions, leveraging Watson's AI engine to get the analytics you need to drive contracting excellence and better business outcomes. Deirdre, would you get us started by introducing yourself and Contract Pod AI to our audience?
Absolutely. Thank you, Peggy. I'm Deirdre Lyon. As Peggy had mentioned, I'm Vice President of Sales for North America for Contract Pod AI. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into our history, where we've come from, to get you familiar with Contract Pod AI. So if we could move on to slide 3. Thank you. So how did our story begin? We grew out of a legal managed services company, so also known as an LMS. So the LMS mostly services the Fortune 500, and a large portion of what they handle for those organizations is contract lifecycle management in some form or another. Contract Pod AI was created in 2013 to service those clients and rolled out in beta to a very successful reception. We realized that we were on to something, and so in 2015, we brought Contract Pod AI to market. In 2017, we partnered with IBM Watson and took off. We achieved exponential growth as a result. And in 2018, we expanded our market development strategy and launched into North America. In 2019, we struck another in-demand partnership with Salesforce, and so we continue on our journey of success by partnering with the best-in-class technology providers. So if we could move on to slide 4. What we are going to discuss here today is how to start interpreting the data within your contracts, as Peggy had mentioned, and data related to turning around contracts into intelligent business insights and to make smarter decisions. However, this story begins with Contract Pod AI's approach to contract lifecycle management and how that was shaped. We see CLM as inherently incorporating the best-in-class technology platforms for optimal elasticity to keep up with the rapid changes, advances, and demands within the market. Our approach and tech roadmap was shaped by the disconnect we saw in the market. First and foremost, people and organizations want to simplify very complex processes, and that's what Contract Pod AI has achieved. No longer does your organization have to procure cloud infrastructure, process engineering services, machine learning support, or any ongoing solution support for that matter to prop up a CLM. And we keep expanding this concept of an all-inclusive offering. So as we continued along in our journey, our customers helped us realize early on the need to partner with best-in-class applications. We were working with a leading manufacturing company, and we saw them struggling to piece together different tech platforms to create a truly integrated CLM product and process. Then we thought we could leverage Microsoft Azure and DocuSign as part of our standard offering and make this easier for the organization. So we saw these third-party contract review solutions also being tacked on to traditional CLMs, and we thought, why not incorporate third-party review into our solution for a single seamless CLM offering? So bringing all this technology together in one place has been the core of our approach to market. And when we brought the AI third-party review into our solution, we were the first in the market to do that. So when we were looking at doing that, we thought again, let's partner with the best-in-class technology, IBM. Then we took that same approach to Salesforce. So this slide, this is what we got to. It's an ecosystem that we built with the best-in-class technology, and we own this in this landscape. So this is our complete end-to-end ecosystem. Next slide, please. And who is using this ecosystem? Well, I wish that I could say it's a particular department or a particular size of an organization or a particular industry vertical, but because we are built on IBM Watson and because that makes Contract Pod AI contract type agnostic, because we struck outstanding partnership agreements that allow the functionality to easily scale across an organization, we can grow with the varying needs and requirements of an organization. And therefore, we are all over the map. So we service companies that range in size from about 300 million in annual revenue all the way up to 154 billion in annual revenue. And these are some of the, on the slide you can see here, these are some of the trusted names. Okay, so now the fun part. Now we're at the audience poll. So contract lifecycle management, where are you? If everyone can just pitch in and share with us where you are. If you're at stage 1, no CLM solution. If you have a CLM solution with basic repository and reporting functions, if you have an advanced CLM that maintains a workflow audit trail, or you have a CLM with AI capabilities built into the tool. So we'll give everyone a couple of seconds to interact with the poll and share with us where you are in your journey.
So as we're waiting for people to vote, I'll just remind everybody that if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the question box, or a comment if you want. Type it in the question box at any time so we can answer that.
Okay, so we can see the results here are fantastic. So the majority of you have a CLM with basic repository and reporting function. Second to that, we have audience members with no CLM solution, or on the other side of the coin, an advanced CLM that maintains workflow audit trail. And very few have a CLM with AI capabilities built into the tool. So that's really what we're going to talk about today, is how the fourth will be able to help you mine your data. So if we can just pan over to slide 9. Thank you. So what do we mean by your contracts are a gold mine? They're full of valuable information that can translate into financial wins for your organization by reducing risk and increasing operational efficiency. So what we are going to discuss here today is how to start interpreting the data within your contracts and data related to turning around contracts into intelligent business insights to make smarter decisions. Next slide, please. So let's first talk about how contracts are managed in the corporate world. So how are business contracts managed in the corporate world? Starting from small to medium to very large organizations, most would say that they have some sort of contract management system or even a process, and that's exactly what we saw in the poll that we just took. But very few would be able to locate the data within them all with any speed that provides for meaningful and fast analysis. So even fewer organizations that talk about big data would know how to use that contract data to qualify and quantify risk in their contracts or find any hidden value. And that's the harvesting of data analytics from big data. And for most organizations, yes, it is a challenge. So what is big data, right? It's a buzzword. Big data relates to extremely large data sets, and it reveals patterns, trends, and associations, especially relating to human behavior and interactions. Most contract management tools have some kind of business intelligence reporting capability, but don't do data analysis in this step. So seldom do they combine analytics and AI-driven contract review. So big data plus AI is automating the analysis, the review and management of contracts to optimize business and negotiation strategies. So what does it look like when big data and artificial intelligence, again, two of the biggest buzzwords in recent time, converge? It creates meaningful data analytics that drive smarter business decisions. And what are data analytics? Well, data analytics is the process of creating, categorizing, and examining data sets in order to draw inferences and conclusions from them. The data and conclusions inform decisions or increase operational efficiency. And this cuts across a wide variety of issues that can be done for contracts. So why is it important? Why should we care? A fundamental source of truth is to understand the language of business in numbers. And data analytics can help every department make the case with accurate numbers for the needs and operations of that department as a whole. So data analytics will provide visibility and insight, create actionable intelligence, and inform better decision making. Now, when you consider how many decisions in the past and even now are often being made by hunches or guesses or even relationships, you can instantly see the appeal and importance of using data analytics to make and track decisions. So before we dive into how we mine it, how we mine data, let's discuss some of the current mining challenges. So without a system to intelligently capture data, an organization may have no audit trails, no reporting, and conclusions about risk and operational efficiency are not being based on data. A decision made without data points could be the wrong decision. But, how would you know? So, how do we mine data? How do you start? We start with identifying all of the data available to your department and your organization, right? Depends on which scale you're working on. And then you have to locate the data and use it to make conclusions. So once you understand your data sources, you must identify what you'd like to measure. And the what is the fundamental purpose behind data analytics. So think about questions where the answers could make the department run more effectively, the organization run more efficiently, or reduce risk to the overall company. So these are the things that you want to think about. Why it happened, what will or may happen, and what you should do. Excuse me. Okay, so one of the best ways to mine data is through AI. Sufficient. There are many ways that we can achieve the above goals that we just talked about. But one of the strongest and quickest ROIs is by leveraging AI to interpret big data. So why AI? I mean, the role of artificial intelligence and data analytics go hand in hand. Well, you don't need AI to perform data analytics, but using AI can help make large data sets much more manageable. So AI is good for finding patterns and unstructured data in large data sets. For example, if you wanted to review all of your supplier agreements or customer agreements and analyze where the risk may be, AI can do that for you in minutes, seconds to be more accurate. And department data analytics is AI. So it's time to start finding out how to get on board. Next slide, please. So go for quick wins. The smart play with those starting out with department data analytics is to go slow and find the quick wins. Without tons of resources, there is not a lot of time or money to spare. So start with the data that you have on hand now, like the data that's in your contracts, and come up with some simple questions to measure and get into a rhythm of generating simple, helpful reports. As you gain experience and figure out different data sources or different questions to ask, you can start to expand your use of data analytics, with the goal always being how you can use this data to make the department operate better and keep the company out of trouble. So embracing data analytics and measuring goals and questions creates opportunity to capture those answers in a dashboard. How widely the dashboard is used may depend on how the department is required to report out. So how can you make smarter business decisions through utilizing Watson's AI engine and deliver an advanced level of analytics? This brings us to the point of how ContractPod AI mines the data. So ContractPod AI leverages the best-in-class technologies we discussed before. It's not a homegrown system that struggles to scale. And because our AI is built on IBM Watson, our platform has the ability to evolve as contracting trends shift and organizational demands for operational efficiency mature. This landscape is developing rapidly. And so your solution needs that ability. We currently leverage 4 elements of Watson, and there are so many more that we can leverage to scale with the market. Because IBM Watson as a foundation of our tech stack, or is the foundation of our tech stack, the solution will not become stale. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, as I referred to earlier. It will continually be a natural innovation journey.
So, Deirdre, one of the questions that came up that may be good to cover as you go through this as well is, as people think about automation, they think about AI, they think about maybe, again, machines kind of, or automation replacing jobs and what people would do. So it might be helpful as you go through this also pointing out where I think there are extra skills that come up that you will, people who really understand the business, who need to work with these tools, as you said, they're there to support us. So, perhaps a little bit of where the tools as data comes in, where people also fit in to help.
Absolutely. So to answer, and there's a whole conversation that we can have around that because that is so important. AI and ethics is a huge benchmark in the industry. And what we've seen are that people are instrumental in creating the proper processes, right? Because context and human relationships and nuances is still something that AI can achieve with the same level of experience and expertise as humans have in those areas. So, we still need the humans to help drive the machine. So figuring out how the machine will fit into the workflow and then what to do with the outputs, right? Because the machine's just putting out outputs, it's spitting out outputs. But, there are ethical considerations to those outputs. They're not necessarily always going to be black and white, right? And so
Right.
Humans are instrumental on the process creation and on the interpretation and application of outputs.
No, I think that's great. And I know that IACCM in January actually published a report on contract and commercial management, the role and direction with the in this current state of technology. So certainly take a look at that for those of you who want. Also an IACCM perspective on this topic. There's also, one follow-up question on that, Deirdre, is, there's been a lot of talk about data scientists being necessary and degrees being now created to do that. Is that something with respect to contract pod AI? Is that something that is necessary to even use this technology, or is this technology really intended to be used by, people who do contracting today?
That's a great question, Peggy. And this technology is intended to be used by people who are contracting today. So because it's built on an IBM Watson platform, it is out of the box usable for people who manage contracts today or handle contracts today. So no special education or training is required to utilize the system.
Fantastic. I'll let you keep going. And those were just two questions that came up, so they look relevant. Thank you.
Yeah, these are great questions, so keep them coming. So now let's take a look at this next slide here. With the AI extractions, organizations will learn how to identify which customers and suppliers are preferable to work with, assess which contracts contain the most risk, create or adjust playbooks in response to the information that's revealed. And again, all of the application of the AI goes back to help humans ascertain what happened, why it happened, what may happen, and what should happen moving forward. If we can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So with Contract Pod AI, a basic dashboard would include the information that you see here on the slide, which is a summary of the number and type of agreements that are completed, where they are in the life cycle, geographically where your customers or suppliers are located, and what's the revenue or spend associated with those contracts across regions and calendar months. So there's a lot of great, business insights business conclusions that can be drawn from that, and processes that can be created from that data to improve the business. So data extraction can look like a visual representation, or it can also look like this. And with Contract Pod AI, with one click, reports can be generated for further analysis. So here we have an example of a key obligations analysis report across a particular supplier and one contract. But if we go down to slide 22, thank you. So now we can compare that to all the other contracts in the system. And this is where the AI and the data analysis really comes into play, because we can compare that to all the other contracts that we have with the supplier, and we're able to detect both patterns and risk across all of these contracts, identifying the what, the why, and the how to respond across the business. So this will help you to make the best business decisions moving forward. And this is where, the humans have to analyze the outputs. Okay, so audit trails in the contract lifecycle process. Let's dive into one way data is captured through Contract Pod AI. So we capture data at each different point along this journey. So the first point, the request form is sent for generation, or the contract is generated via a self-service desk. That template incorporates certain aspects of your playbook. So for sales, you can generate the contract right from Salesforce, as you can see here in the slide. You never have to leave the Salesforce environment to generate a contract or access the workflow associated with contracting in your organization, or locate a contract that may be in the repository. And then that agreement is negotiated through a communication portal in ContractPod.ai with other internal users, and it can be negotiated through the communication portal with the external contracting party. So all of that data for each action is captured throughout this process. So an audit trail with data is being built up for future analysis. And we rinse and repeat that process across multiple versions of the agreement. Then the agreement is sent out for signature right from ContractPod.ai through DocuSign. Again, we partnered with DocuSign, a best-in-class technology. And then the agreement is stored on the cloud in Microsoft Azure. So deadlines, actions, lengths of time, different data points all along the way are captured by the system and can be tracked and reported against for increased operational efficiency. Now, this next slide highlights a different use case and workflow through ContractPod.ai, because some of you are, you're internal paper heavy and others are third-party paper heavy. And then, there's organizations that have a decent mix of both, right? So this is another example of a workflow. Let's dive into the way that data is captured through ContractPod.ai through IBM Watson. So when we are not generating a contract on our own paper, we receive an agreement from a third party. And then the user with ContractPod.ai can take that contract, upload it into the system. What the system will do is it will check the information within that contract or metadata against existing limits of your organization. And it will automate alerts and approvals and workflow based on the content that's within that third-party contract. And then once all of that workflow is completed, it's then pushed to sign off. And all the while, all of that data is being collected and stored within the system so that at any point during the process, that data can be reported on and analyzed, and even, after the fact as well. So it serves to increase transparency and control and better governance. So this again is the end-to-end ecosystem. And in conclusion, this is our technology journey. We have really redefined the end-to-end CLM ecosystem by combining AI third-party review into our platform as part of our standard offering. And we've partnered with the best-in-class technology to build out our platform, and that's how we will continue to grow. We make CLM easy and simple. We wrap our services and all required tech into a singular product offering for a seamless workflow and a painless implementation. And we're supported by the best-in-class tech partners. And this is not the end of our story. This is only the beginning. And this is why you want to be with us.
Okay, great, Deirdre. So we do have a number of questions. So let me transition to that now, and some of it does have to do with capabilities. So one, just in terms of just following up on the technology and the use of humans and people to do work. Do you see ContractPod.ai and AI in general that contract negotiations will likely remain primarily human interactions, at least in the short to medium term, but that what the tool does is provide good data points that you could consider for negotiations? Or do you actually think that we can use AI and ContractPod.ai to actively engage negotiations in place of human interactions?
That's a great question. So I think that, there's a range of contracts, right? So you have low value, low risk contracts, and then you have at the other end of the range, highly complex, high value contracts. And it depends on the organization and the volume of contracts that they see at the low end, low risk, low value, low risk side of that spectrum. So there is an argument to be made that, at that end of the spectrum, that the contracting process can be fully automated.
Right.
And that's a matter of, organizational preference, really, in terms of your organization's comfort level with the application and use of AI. There's not a one size fits all answer for that. It really boils down to comfort level. So in the near short term, I think that we'll see applications of AI to the negotiation process more and more. It's going to become more and more frequent. And, in 10 years, people may be very comfortable with the application of AI to the negotiation process and completely have those low value, low risk run end to end on machines. But, for the middle of that spectrum and certainly at the high end of that spectrum, there's no replacement for humans at this point in time. There's just not.
Right. And I think it's a really good point on segmenting because there's a lot of interest in self-serve and low touch or no touch contracting for the part of the portfolio that either what you're buying or what you're selling is already very mature. So I know that IACCM also recently did a report, a survey on kind of self-serve contracting to see that people are really interested in different, different parts of what they can do on that lower risk, a more commoditized side versus what they would do on the more robust side. So great. And I noticed that in your presentation, you actually have here's one that is really much more self-service oriented and one that is much more highly negotiated. And so that kind of goes toward what people are starting to do is, do we really need to negotiate some of these? And can we move away from negotiations on the low risk and low dollar and go with more of the high risk or high dollar ones in terms of looking at those interactions? So great. So one of the key questions that people have is on, how long it takes to train a system to really do the data analytics. So, can they make the assessments on their own? Has the application been trained in some ways, or will contract pod AI, need training by organizations that are implementing them in terms to calibrate what risk profile and what what to look for specific to the business?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are 21 metadata points that the machine can ascertain out of the box. And then, of course, what we do during the implementation is we take a sample set of the organization's contracts and we load them into the system, and we have a team of legal engineers that will analyze the outputs and tweak the machine to any data points or information inputs into those data points that may be germane to that particular line of business. So there is some machine training that's involved during our 12-week implementation for the standard 21 metadata points. Now, IBM Watson can be trained to to analyze almost anything. I don't want to say anything because that's a broad, sweeping statement, but almost anything. And there are always, a handful, 5, 10, 20 custom metadata points that an organization would like for our engineering team to train the machine on to get it ready for launch. And of course, we can do that. We can do that as well. And total training time is 12 weeks.
Wow. Okay. Okay, fantastic. So one other question that has come up is really, I think at the beginning you talked about partnering with Salesforce recently. Is the application both buy side, sales side, or is it, is it primarily buy side and you're developing capabilities with Salesforce on the sales side? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the nice thing about Contract Pod AI is it's not, because it's contract type agnostic, and because we have the AI tool built into the system that is responsible for conducting a lot of due diligence on the buy side, we are not partial to buy or sell. So the system has been very successful at handling both buy side and sell side. In terms of our Salesforce partnership and journey, we're a certified Salesforce partner, and we're the only that I'm aware of. So, you can fact check me, but we're the only certified Salesforce partner that allows for that AI third-party paper review right within the tool, right within Salesforce, I should say.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. One final question, and then, please, if there are some in the audience, please feel free to jump in as well. Does Contract Pod AI have customers in the university space?
We
Or in the
are
education, I should say the education space.
the education space, yeah. So yes, we have education. We have education customers. University. I'm not in the United States.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway. We'd love to.
Okay. And are they public universities, private universities? Just as a point of interest.
Oh
Or do
no,
you
we
not
don't.
know?
No, not in the U.S. We don't have any current university customers.
Okay. But you do outside the U.S.?
Outside U.S., yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. And then I think we're at the end of our questions. So let me just take one more scan and make sure. Great. Okay, well, Deirdre, thank you so much for walking us through the Contract Pod AI approach to data analytics and the kind of the end-to-end approach, and helping us understand also why deep AI capabilities can drive smarter business decisions. My thanks to you and to everyone who joined us on the session. I hope you found it to be useful and that you all have a fantastic rest of the day. This concludes our webinar. Thank you.